Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
The truth shall set you free.
You can't handle the truth.
We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
That's not how the Force works. Oh, really? You're cold?
I'm gonna make him an offer again.
I'd buy that for $1.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Hasta la vista, baby.
I don't have friends. I got family.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
Hello and welcome to the Creative Control Podcast. I'm your host, Kenan Akbler, and thank you for joining us for episode 16. This week, our topic is Predator and what's next. Joining me for today's show from the Creative Control team, we have Sasha, Neil, Sal, Alex, and Greg. How you doing, gentlemen?
Great.
Great.
Popular topic, this one. We've got quite a full team. Probably the last one we had this many was probably RoboCop. So yeah, it's good to have a full house today. As I said, today's episode is all about Predator. So let's talk a little bit about the history of the character. So the original Predator was released in 1987, was directed by John Mctiermann, starred Arnold Schwarzenegger, Carl Weathers, Jesse Ventura, Shane Black as well, as commandos attempting to rescue hostages while being stalked in the jungle of Central America. The extraterrestrial was played by Kevin Peter Hall, who he replaced Jean-Claude Van Damme in the movie. So this is, I mean, Predator is one of my, it's in my top 10 movies of all time, but you know, we'll come to that in a little bit, I'm sure. So then we had Predator 2, directed by Stephen Hopkins in the 1990s. Danny Glover, Ruben Blades, Gary Busey, Maria Conchita Alonso, and Bill Paxton were along those in the film. And it was set decades later in basically in LA. Then we had the crossover movies. In 2004, we had Alien versus Predator. And then in 2007, we had the sequel Alien versus Predator Requiem. Then our next installment was Predators in 2010, which centered on a group of mercenaries and murderers being kidnapped and transported to an alien game preserve jungle planet to fight off super predators. This starred Adrian Brody, Topher Grace, Alice Braga, Walter Goggins, and Lawrence Fishburne. And then we had the fourth film, the most recent, The Predator, released in 2018, was directed by Shane Black, who starred in the original. And this was, he co-wrote the script with Fred Decker about a group of soldiers and scientists teaming up to battle an invading pair of predators. Spoilers. The cast included Boyd Holbrook, Trevante Rhodes, Jacob Tremblay, Keegan-Michael Key, Olivia Munn, Alfie Allen, Thomas Jane, Augusto Aurelia, Jake Busey, and Yvonne Strakowski. But Disney in November 2020 announced that they were developing a fifth Predator movie. It was going to be directed by 10 Cloverfield Lane director Dan Trachtenberg. So Patrick Hayton, whose television credits include Kingdom, Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan, and Treadstone, has been hired to write the script. It's reported that the movie won't have Predator in the title. It's just going to be called Skulls. And it's going to be set in a pre-European Comanche tribe and will be supposedly follow Key, a Comanche woman who goes outside the established gender norms to fight for her tribe, presumably against a predator. So that's kind of what Disney 20th Century Studios has kind of got in place. So we'll talk a little bit about what we think about their potential Predator 5, but more importantly, what we would do with Predator 5. So just touching on like the first set of films, like I said, the original Predator, I'd imagine it's probably in most of your top 10, if not top 20 movies of all time. Am I getting that right?
Mm-hmm. Top movies and top Arnie movies as well.
Yes. I was going through my top 10 movie and it was like, actually, I've got at least two Arnies in there, which is Predator and T2. So, but yeah, they're both in my top 10s. But overall, the franchise so far, what have been the highlights? What have been the lowlights, basically? What have you guys found?
Predator 1 is like the highest of highlights you can get. It is what a movie that was.
You can jump in at any time and watch it, right? It's like it doesn't matter what if I'm channel flicking and it's on, I can just watch it from wherever it's at.
Yeah, and you'll watch it. You'll watch it to the end. It's not like one where you think, oh, you know what? No, I'll carry on flicking and find something else. Like, no, this is fine. I'll stick.
This is it.
In that film, right? It's not even just you can jump in at any time. Is you hear that music?
Yeah,
you're in that direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it brings you back in time, doesn't it?
not only that, one time Sasha actually grabbed me and said, "I'm going to go watch Predator right now on the screen. You want to go?" I'm like, "Sure." I had nothing to do that. Well, actually, I had a lot to do that day, but I went anyway and watched it. It's one of those films. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I saw it on the big screen with Alex. We did an Arnie movie marathon up at the Prince Charles, and that was one of them. And yeah, it was great to see on the big screen. Absolutely fantastic. And the way it's been digitally remastered since, it's just a joy to watch. Greg, what are your thoughts on the first one?
Well, I mean, it led to Predator the musical on YouTube, which is you can kill it. It's a classic, as you said. It's probably one of Arnie's best films. If I don't say get to the chopper multiple times in a year, I'll be surprised. It's an instant classic. So,
but it's a thing, isn't it? It's an army film, but it's not an army film. It's still a Predator film. He's in it, but you don't feel he's overwhelmingly, the way all his movies goes and the way they act and all of that. I like it. Yeah. It's definitely a Predator film, but he's
the ensemble of like the other characters and stuff. So,
exactly. I like everybody in it.
Them and stuff, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a point that later when we talk about some more recent Predator films, it's the sort of the camaraderie between the ensemble which make it. It's actually having characters you care enough about. They're very massive and stuff, but they're very unique. They've got their own idiosyncrasies and stuff, from shaving his eye to just being slightly weird and just everything. So I think that certainly makes it. Arnie's not normally sort of sharing the spotlight on this when he does. So
yeah. And what about the sequel? So Predator 2, for me, it's kind of forgettable. I don't remember too much of it.
I've never thought it was a favorite. Yeah.
You just mentioned the actors. You just mentioned the actor's name, and I didn't remember any of them. But I have seen it, but I just didn't remember any of them were in it. And I think it's one of those things. We just talked about the characters. Is that all the sequels? I only remember and enjoy the ones where Predator is just an entity there that is the dangerous entity, and the camaraderie between all the characters and fighting against it or surviving against it are my famous favorite films from throughout the whole, like all the sequels. I think there are 3 of them like that, and I've enjoyed those 3. While the rest of them I didn't really.
Any other fans of Predator 2?
Yeah, I'm a bad rap though, don't it? Predator 2, but I actually really enjoy it. I think Danny Glover's great in it. I love I actually prefer the weaponry and stuff that the Predator has. I love the spear, the nets, the bladed disc thing and all this kind of stuff. I love the visual of the 3 dots for the cannon on the shoulder, but it always seemed like such a powerful weapon that I prefer it when that gets taken out of commission and it's a bit more almost not quite hand to hand, but more sort of primitive style weapons and that kind of stuff. I actually really enjoyed it.
One thing I have to say about Predator 2 is when you watch Predator 1, and this is you take if you just know the aura of Arnie, you watch Predator 1, you have a fair idea he'll win, right? Because it's Arnie. Right? Let's just face facts. It's Arnie. You're I haven't watched a film where I've seen Arnie in a leading role and been like, you won't get fucked up.
Yeah.
Right?
Never. You're not going to make it to the end.
Right?
Yeah, you say that though, but the visual of actually Arnie being held up by the throat is pretty awesome.
Exactly, right? So
that was the power of the Predator.
But after that, so you watch that whole film and you're like, okay, wow, yeah, that's some serious business there. You just made that. And then you watch Predator 2 and you see Danny Glover. Danny Glover's not a small man and he's not a weak man. But when you look at Danny Glover, you're like, you might not make the end credits.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Danny Glover always looks too old for this shit. He always does. Whatever.
You're right, Greg. He does. He always looks too old for this shit. So when I watch Predator 2, my outlook, even though I've seen it a million times, I'm like, it's almost like a more intense challenge because I'm like, you look like you might die by a predator.
Sasha, what are you saying about Predator 2?
I love Predator 2. Yeah, sure, it's no Predator 1, but you know what? I saw it at an age where I was 9 years old, and I wasn't as pessimistic about sequels and whatnot. I just wanted more. And as I've gotten older, I'd take Predator 2 over over most movies that come out today. And yeah, fuck it. I did say Marvel movies. Yeah, fuck it. Yeah, that's right, Greg. That is right. That is right. I would take Predator 2 over Marvel DC movies, hands down. Okay.
DC, I can see.
Look, Big Willie. Okay, Big Willie, King Willie. He was a boss character, bro. He was a boss character, bro. Even though he got taken out, but he was man. That guy gets mean 24/7. I mean, and Gary Busey being just Gary Busey was just fucking a joy, man. I fucking love that movie. Fine. I look. It's not classic as the first one, but you got to understand. John McTiermann, Die Hard, 13th Warrior, Die Hard with a Vengeance, Predator, every other fucking movie he's made. He's a top director of the 80s and 90s, man. It's hard to beat him. And the guy they got a British guy that did quite a lot of movies, and I've forgotten the guy's name, but I know he did Peter Sellers biography movie like years later that got nominated or something.
Stephen Hopkins directed Predator 2.
Stephen Hopkins, yeah, that's him. He's like a hired hand director, but he's still directing today TV shows and all kinds of stuff. And I think he did a remarkable job on the second one. The problem with the second one is once you've seen the monster, you know what I mean, we know what we've got when you go back. When you go back with a objective kind of eye, which is why, you know, I really liked the third one, Predators, because they did something different. You know what I mean, right, with the whole concept.
Yeah, so they took it off of Earth.
We'll go on to the sequels.
No, so yeah, it's a good segue. So, you know, they took it off Earth, put it onto an alien planet, and it was something different. You know, it was a really interesting take, you know, putting some people out of their comfort zone, out of their environment, and then obviously had this really weird twist ending. And again, Topher Grace, correct me if I'm wrong, was trying to be a bad guy again for some reason.
Well, that was just it. With Topher Grace, he was the odd one out. And I think with Topher Grace, they should have got someone else because you knew there was something off about him from the get-go. You know what I mean? You didn't quite know, but you kind of knew, you know what I mean? Because it was too obvious. But aside from that, you know, I really enjoyed that one. I really did, because it was different, because they tried something new. I like bringing the dogs hunting, because as a hunter, that's what hunters do. They send the dogs first to wound the prey, and then they go stalk stuff. And I was like, that makes sense. And I personally really enjoyed that one. But yeah.
What about you, Predators?
Can I jump back to Predator 2 and just say I agree with you that I wasn't not a fan of it, but I find it forgettable. It's not one that I want to go back and revisit. I think not the only redeeming feature, because that's being unfair. It is better than still a load of films made now. I disagree about Marvel. I agree about DC. But what I did like about it is literally the last few minutes where it had that sort of extended the lore. It's like the John Wick movies. We know Keanu can kick ass. I'm more interested in the sort of the lore of the Continental and all that stuff. That's the shit that fascinates me. So finally the Predator, or when they kind of said you've bested our warrior and they gave him a flintlock pistol, that sort of stuff. Like, okay, now that's interesting. It adds more to it that wasn't told. But the rest of it I can take or leave and stuff. So like, and then I find it not massively forgettable, but just it's not my go-to go back and rewatch.
No. And what about Predators?
Sorry, one thing I will never forget Predator 2 for one reason, one piece of dialogue. Fucking voodoo magic, man.
Yeah.
As long as I live, that line is mwah.
You cannot see the eyes of the demon till he come a calling.
See, that's the thing. It's a great line, but if I say that, it just sounds horrifically racist.
Yeah.
It's amazing if I go,
not one I'm going to repeat.
And we get away with that. If I start doing this sort of, that shit's frowned upon.
So yeah, great. Predators.
I liked it. I think I liked it at the time, but then I sit there and go, I just finally forget it. I think
it's not one that I've revisited. I don't think since
not at all. I mean, I think it had a really good cast. I mean, Aidan Brody, Lawrence Fishburne, all these amazing actors. I think when it comes down to is it's they got the ensemble cast idea right, which was what made Predator 1 so good. But without Shane Black's, the direct stuff that, unlike The Predator, they just sucked the joy. It took itself very seriously.
It was very serious.
And and you got, Alton Goggins, all these amazing actors, but I just think it was a bit too taking itself too seriously. So
it was lacking in the dialogue.
Predators and The Predator, I will, as much as The Predator has some absolutely terrible things that it is, I just prefer it massively. So yeah, Predators as on its own, I just think that it was good and I enjoyed it at the time, but then I found it sort of forgettable again. Yeah, one I plan to revisit. So
yeah. Sal, what about you? Predators, a fan? Do you remember much of it?
No, actually, I remember much of it, and actually remembered the fact that I watched Alien vs. Predator prior to it, and when I went to watch it, and I was not only genuinely surprised, I really liked it because I genuinely hated the other one because I don't know what was going on with Alien vs. Predators. I mean, I think it was just made to do something. Like, I mean, they couldn't think of something. They're just like, oh, let's just do something. And they shoved two big franchises together and made pure shit. And
that was hinted at the end of Predator 2, though. There was a xenomorph skull in Predator 2.
Yeah. Yes. So when I went to watch Predators, I was surprised and I enjoyed it thoroughly, simply because it was drastically different and it was an actual Predator movie. And I like the idea that they decided, completely to turn into a game sort of a thing. And this time, they're in the Predator's arena rather than the Predator being in their arena, which was Earth, like Predator 1 and 2, obviously. So yeah, I did enjoy it quite a bit, actually.
And Neil, what about yourself?
I genuinely enjoyed Predators. I had 2 issues with the film. One was I didn't like that at the end of the movie, they basically tried to make Adrian Brody like Arnie 2.0. And it's not a disrespect to Adrian Brody. It's they do this with any film that was started by Arnie. Any franchise started with Arnie in part 1 that he's not in the subsequent sequels. They try and make whoever the new hero is Arnie 2.0, and it never works. It didn't work. Like Jason Momoa is a great actor. He is not a great Conan when you like, okay, Arnold.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's the same with Total Recall. It's the same, any film that Arnie's in. And the way they had to try to have like upper body up, he worked out hard for that movie. But I'm like, you are a regular man, Adrian.
Yeah, and they should have stuck with that. It probably would have worked better. Yeah. So what was your second issue?
My second issue was that you're on an alien games preserve. How are you, man, not running out of ammo? All that shooting you did when the dogs was hunting you, and none of you ran out of ammo.
They retooled when they went to Lawrence Fishburne's place, didn't it? Because he was a scavenger.
Predators were making a game. They were just leaving stuff around for him to pick up, man. It's like, you've got to make this interesting.
Paper thin. That's like PS.
Dude was a scavenger. He'd survived on the planet for years. He was nicking shit, taking it to his little base with his like imaginary friends, and he was luring them to gas them out to like eat them or something, or God knows what, man. But Lawrence Fishburne was proper loco in that movie.
All right. So what about the fourth film, The Predator, 2018, Shane Black? I thought it was okay, but that's kind of all I felt about it. So
I can't remember it at all.
Okay,
I've been trying.
So Shane Black was in the original Predator movie. He played Hawkins. He also did a lot of the script adjustments for that movie, but did it uncredited. He was supposed to be the chosen one. When I heard Shane Black was doing a Predator movie, I was so hyped for this movie. I was so balls deep in. I've never ever been. Well, no, that's a lie. But I was so disappointed with this film, man. I was so disappointed with this film. What I do know that it had a lot of reshoots, and I would assume that Fox weren't happy with the original cut, whatever that may be.
They completely changed the ending, didn't they?
Yeah, they completely changed the ending, apparently, and they changed various parts of the production. So I am intrigued if there is like a Shane Black cut of that movie, because quite clearly that movie was very disjointed. The product I saw was clearly disjointed. And I know the Iron Man bullshit at the end was not a Shane Black idea and was a studio exec's idea, which was even adds
It was
more
supposed
to
to
the
set up a new trilogy originally. This movie.
Yeah, so it just completely baffles me what went on behind the scenes of that movie. But again, like, I don't think we'll really know now that Disney owns it or get a cut off that movie because there's not much of a demand for it.
No.
But I am very intrigued. If Shane Black is ever like on a podcast and stuff, I really hope someone like asks him about that movie and what originally was meant to happen. Or fuck it, just leave. I wonder if there's a script out there online.
I know what happened in the last third was basically there was a general character by Edward James Olmos who got completely cut from the movie, who basically teamed up to take out the big super predator, and including 3 predators came from sort of to help the army and to help the sort of protagonist. So a lot of the sort of the slightly mental sort of soldiers died early, like he died way earlier. And it came down to McKenna and the army and 3 predators hunting the super predator. And apparently it was just very dark, very, very bloody, very long. And they just decided to rework it. And then when they did that, they ended up cutting out the whole of the general character because he served no purpose anymore. So
I know that there was, well, I mean, it's a rumor because I've never come across any confirmation of it, that initially the real ending was supposed to have, like, as in like after the final battle and thing, it was supposed to have Arnie turn up, like a helicopter lands, Arnie comes out the helicopter and he's like, it's old grizzled Arnie, and he's just like, basically like, all right, yeah, you proved that you could kill a predator, so
Yeah, I think there was
team basically, but
I think they tried to get him on board to make an appearance, but it didn't work out scheduling wise or something like that. So I think
my understanding, they've been trying to. Sorry.
Yeah, but he came back to do the video game, didn't he?
Yeah, he came back to voice Dutch in the video game.
Yeah, I mean, they tried. They tried with Predators because the Lawrence Fishburne role was originally supposed to be Dutch, and he was governor at the time and couldn't accommodate the schedule because they were filming in Mexico. So. But Shane Black's Predator, what a misfire. I fucking did not. Look, I generally like Predator movies, except for when they're like crossbreeding with aliens and
that's the thing that gets me about Predators is like, the Predator is this constant sort of one-upping of the Predator. Oh, so now we've got to have a Predator and a super Predator. It's like the Predator's like badass and cool enough as he is. I get that's one thing that annoys me a little bit about Predators with Adrian Brody, but story-wise it makes sense because they need to essentially get off the planet, so they need like a regular Predator to save, to be like, okay, you're going to fly us out of here. So I kind of understand,
I guess it's the difference. I think
and stuff, but
it's the difference between wolves and dogs, dogs and wolves,
in Predators it kind of worked because they weren't like that different, it was kind of like almost like 2 like warring tribes. But in the Predator, it was like, the super Predator's like what, about 12 feet or whatever it is, it's just kind of like
way over the top.
Yeah, it's just like, come on, man. It's just like,
okay, so we'll push Alien and Predators aside, and Prometheus and all all that jazz.
We should go there. We should go there. AVP.
Before we do, can I put my tuppence worth in on the Predator?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to be controversial. I know it wasn't well received and this and that, and there are so many bits that annoyed me about it. The idea that autism is some amazing code-breaking superpower, and that Olivia Munn went from sort of evolutionary biologist to super soldier and stuff like this. And despite so many things, I quite enjoyed it, and and I know everyone's gonna go, "Oh, really?" I thought it was fun. It was stupid, but I think, I mean, you can, the camaraderie was there. Shane Black he's such a great spinner. I mean, films like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang are in my sort of top 20 or top 10 films. I just think he's awesome, and I just think it was more fun. It didn't take itself as seriously as like Predators, and so. I thought it was quite silly. There are so many little bits, and the Iron Man suit sort of thing at the end, and I just kind of groaned and went, really? Especially, but I still, overall, I just, some of its parts, I actually thought it was quite amusing, and I liked the I really liked the central group of the soldiers with their idiosyncrasies and their craziness. I just thought it was just a laugh and great fun. So
yeah,
plus I thought that Sterling K. Moss as the bad guy was enjoying chewing the scenery quite a lot, and he was quite menacing thing. Plus I love Olivia Munn. So yeah, I generally liked it. I think the cast were great. I thought, you know, it had loads and loads of issues, but they didn't diminish it too much for me. I'd still rather watch that again than Predator 2 or Predators.
It suffered a little bit with bad press as well because Olivia Munn came out and said that she was forced to, she had to film a scene with a registered sex offender. And then she kind of let the studio know that, and then that whole scene was cut from the movie. And then that became a thing because apparently this person was a friend of Shane Black and kind of stuff. So there was a little bit of a sour thing. So actually, when it came to promoting the film, there wasn't actually a lot of people out there promoting it either.
Yeah.
That kind of weird backlash. So it didn't really succeed on that level. But maybe, again, Shane Black was very much a case of with the studio, maybe he's been pissed off with them because they interfered with his movie. So maybe, you know, there's a bit of that as well. But okay, so Predator 5, what's next for Predator? So there's this potential that, obviously we've got this one in the work. 10 Cloverfield Lane, I thought was a really great movie. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was really, really thrilling, really, you know, great tension in that movie, great performances, you know, so I'm excited to see what he can do with Skulls. You know, it'd be interesting maybe to take Predator back to more of that primal time, you know, so where we got more pure hunters and stuff like that. Rather than it being about modern tech and weapons, so I don't have an issue with that at all. So I'm on board for what they're doing with that. What are your guys' thoughts in terms of the potential like Comanche tribe kind of element to it? And then we'll discuss what you would do instead. So what do you think about the plan so far?
Yeah, it's interesting because actually I didn't know anything about what you've just said about what their plans were, because they're actually quite similar to what I was actually thinking.
Interesting. Okay.
I have no idea, because as I say, I'm just sick of this having to like one up sort of like the Predator all the time. So yeah, my sort of their idea sounds good. I was almost like, go like ancient Japan or something, man. Just make it so it's like
you're in store for a treat.
Like, you know,
me and Neil have a tale.
You know, one of the things I did like about Predators was like Lawrence Fishburne's character saying about, oh look, you know, when one of us kills one of them, they obviously go off, and when they come back, all their tactics are different, their weapons are different, that kind of thing. So again, you take it back in time, the Predator's weapons are less advanced, so I like the idea of, okay, let's get rid of, say, like the shoulder cannon or something, so so it's not quite as powerful. Let's get it back down to sort of, you know, spears and
and we don't want the military fighting Predators. Like,
obviously, you know, like the blades on the wrist, the classic, you know, not gonna get rid of those, but you know, a bit like in Predators when, you know, that the guy was taking on the Yakuza guy with the samurai sword in Predators, you know, back to that sort of thing. So yeah, my idea was pretty straightforward, and you know, because I was like, to be honest, I don't know where you go with Predator, because it's just like, apart from going back to basics and almost doing like a remake of the original, which I don't really want, because the original is a classic. But if you're just gonna like do another movie, then why not just remake the original, because then at least it's as close to the original as you're going to get for a new generation. But otherwise, yes, like just like stop all this stuff and trying to get it almost like closer to Alien. And you know, it's like, oh, we're going to get, you know, like Alien's almost like going back in time, and Predator's getting closer to the future to sort of meet him up, whatever. Just take it back, and
I think it will be
back to basics, and you know.
It's quite telling that in the original Predator, you know, there's scenes where the chain gun into the forest was just the classic scene and did absolutely nothing. And in the end, it came down to him covering himself in mud, hoisting a log up, making a spike trap. And I think, it would work very well as a sort of a tribe kind of doing sort of almost Ewok style traps versus it's going to be very much the Battle of Endor, but with one stormtrooper sort of taking on all the Ewoks in the sense.
That's an interesting crossover, Ewoks versus Predator.
This idea of no technology and logs and spikes, and you know, like just sort of parabolic versus, you know, someone who's got all the technology and stuff. And but
it might even be interesting, like for once, like, you know what, maybe the Predator wins at the end of the movie. Like, maybe we don't have this funny character. It's like, you know, come on, man, against the Predator, humans are piss poor. I can let Predator 1 go because it's Arnie, you know. All right, fair enough. Yeah, it's plausible we might defeat a Predator, but otherwise, like, come on, man, maybe the Predator wins at the end. For
Alex, me and Neil.
All right, so that's Sasha and Neil are going to hold off because I know you got a treatment. So, Al, what do you think about taking Predator back to like Comanche tribe?
You talking to me?
Yep.
Yeah, well, actually, that was Comanche Tribe was something that I just found out. But yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking, get rid of all these advanced predators. I mean, the original predator was, I mean, dangerous enough that I don't think even adding an extra gun or anything would do anything. It just makes a bigger explosion. That's really it. So yeah, no, I wanted an original predator, but in a completely different setting. It is kind of fun to see the tropical jungle sort of a setting, maybe rain and that sort of a thing, because it brings more darkness in to the screen, because that's what you need, right? That's how they hide themselves, camouflage themselves. So I did like that idea, and I thought, I mean, I think that doing Comanche Tribe thing, it kind of makes interesting, especially because it's so drastically different when it comes to technology. Because even if you look at the old school Predator, still too advanced. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what he just said, what I call Alex just said about what I call aliens and predators, I thought it would be kind of fun idea as well. If humans are going to some planet, crash somewhere, and the predator's there, humans are the aliens in that world.
Right.
That'd be kind of fun.
A little bit of a different take. So rather than predators bringing them to there to hunt,
yeah,
actually
we go there.
Just arrive.
Yeah,
there.
we ended up in their place or something like that, because we've never seen where they're from.
Yeah, well,
we always see them in
my
ship.
take on it. Yeah, my take on it was to go more primal, just to take it back, you know, distance itself from the recent movies, and I actually wanted to set it in sort of like Western time in America kind of thing, like Cowboys versus Predators, basically. So
didn't they have the film?
Cowboys versus aliens.
Yeah,
exactly. So you know, something similar to that. You know, I like the idea of potentially we could have a little bit more desert-like. So you know, we kind of done the jungles, we kind of done those things. So it's just a little bit more desert scene, a little bit more like sandstorms, all those kind of things. So Predator, kind of. I really like Alex's idea about maybe like ancient Japan or China or something like that.
That does sound good. Yeah.
Really, that's kind of different. So okay, so when I first started talking about doing a creative control podcast. We were talking about topics and stuff like movies we can, you know, potentially do. Neil and Sasha both were like, yeah, Predator, aliens, we've got ideas. So I know that they've had this kind of like idea and treatment, like just it's there ready to unleash it and stuff. So I'm gonna hand it over to them now. Bear in mind, I don't want this to be a 3-hour podcast, so I don't need script and verse. But tell us your tale. Tell us your idea.
All right. I'll lead first, putting the basics on, and then I'll hand it over to Neil at some point.
Neil, I got my eye on you.
Hold on, before we do that, we'll just do one thing, right? This is myself and Sash both had the same idea independently.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we spoke about it, that's where it just stayed.
You've been spending too much time together. That's
too
many podcasts over the last few years. Right, go on, Sasha, kick us off.
I had this idea like 10, maybe 12 years ago, but like, obviously, like my favorite stuff is like samurai movies and like, you know, ninja movies and stuff like that. So I always was for like going back, and the whole thing that spun that idea was the gun from Predator 2. I was like, well, wouldn't it be cool to see the prequel where the musket came from? And I was like, oh man, but that'd be like Civil War kind of era. And then I was like, hang on, if you went to the era of when the samurai were, you know, coming towards their end, and you had like the West bringing guns and stuff over to Japan, that's where the musket could have come from. And then I just kind of spitballed from there. So basically my whole thing is literally there's like this village tribe, kind of like The Last Samurai, kind of straight out of that movie, you know, where like these samurais, they're in a war against the West with their guns and stuff. And, you know, they basically go, you know, their village is like on the other side of a stretch of like woodland, you know, like those Japanese trees, the thin trees that you get, the stuff that you see in samurai movies. That's the landscape. And in terms of like camouflage and stuff, I wanted to set it during the winter, during snow kind of thing. The opening's quite literally two bears fighting in the woods, and you think it's a bear fight, but actually a predator comes and murks a bear, basically. And that's where you see the bear hung up on the tree. So when people watch the movie, they don't see human on the tree. They think it's something else. They think it's like, oh, this is an ancient Japan movie. And I wasn't going to call it Predator. I was going to call it whatever the Japanese name for Predator was, with a 0 kind of thing, you know, because it's a prequel. But you know, that was just my way of thinking it. My main characters were going to be like, you had like the English side or the US side of soldiers where they, you know, they're at war with like this other samurai general, and it's quite literally, you've got the two generals in the woods. They obviously have a skirmish, and the survivors of that battle being the two generals from the opposite parties and the surviving members of the troop. They're our team, basically. And you've got an interpreter, some guy that can understand English as well as Japanese, and you know, that sort of thing. And along the way, they meet Neil's character, who was his protagonist, who we decided would be the protagonist of the movie. But at the end of the movie, we come to the resolve that everybody dies, the predator wins, but everybody dies respecting each other as warriors on the battlefield, because they've had to collaborate and work against this new force kind of thing. And it was more about the characters and their two opposite cultures, and about respect on the battlefield, and about two enemies having to work together against this force. And when they both die, they have this respect for each other, and this love and respect for each other. So that was kind of where I was going with the motley crew. I didn't flesh out characters, but that's where Neil comes in.
Okay, so Predator in Japanese, forgive my pronunciation for anyone listening, but it's like Hoshokusha. So it might be quite interesting for a movie title. So Neil.
Well, you see, for me, like I had the idea, and then I had the title, and then everything kind of came from there. So my title was going to be Oni, because Oni means demon in Japan. And I'm like, they wouldn't have called it a predator, because it was like, all right, they know what the word predator means, but you know, we're talking like, and I have the year would be 1868.
Oh wow, specific. Okay.
Because the reason it would be 1868 is it's only a couple of years after Japan as a country started trading with like Dutch and the British and that. So that's when they actually got guns.
Yeah.
So it would be around that time. And it was like my idea before talking with Sash was my independent of ideas. It was that it was around the time when all the dynamos were just at war. There was like a massive war in Japan where it's like all the lords were just going
at it. That's 1868, and they had their civil war.
Yeah, so that's it, when that massive civil war's going on. So I'm like, you've got the heat, and I didn't set it in the snow, I had it in a heat wave, because I'm like, there are parts of the lore that I'm like, must remain. And they were like, from Predator 1, it had to be a heat wave. In Predator 2, it's a heat wave. In Predators, they don't need to think about a heat wave, they're not on planet Earth.
I go with Sasha with the snow first. And then he becomes, you know, so basically you see him killing the bear.
Yeah.
And that is him going into hibernation. So he doesn't like the cold. So therefore, you know, he does some attacks. He sees some stuff. He goes into hibernation. I think he disappears, maybe moves into the summer, into the heat wave.
Yeah.
That might be something.
You see, in my treatment, you never see the predator kill the bears. You see the bears fighting. You see blood, etc. You see blood off the snow, kind of off screen.
Yeah.
And you're just led to think, okay, there's bears fighting. You don't really pay. It's like the opening shot, so you don't really pay.
I think of Game of Thrones. First episode, you know, we have all those people there, and it's like snow, and it's just like the period. So yeah.
And then they find a dead bear later on. You know what I mean? And they're like, what the fuck killed that? And how the fuck did the bear get up there? You know what I mean? So
So sorry, Neil. So heat wave, go on.
Right. So we've got a heat wave going on. We've got the civil wars going on. So because of that, because the civil war's going on and it's a heat wave, it works to the favor of the predator, because you've got a massive number of heavily armed individuals who are battle ready.
Lots of armor.
Yeah. So what's happening is you'll see like compounds are like disappearing overnight, and people are just thinking, oh well, you know what, Lord such and such was going to war with Lord other such and such, so maybe one Lord just wiped out that Lord. So it's always like there's a logical reason for why it's going on. But how it's boiling down now is we have like the Dutch and the Portuguese are bringing in weapons. So we have one of these particular lords. I think I called him Lord Raiju, right? He is like, you know what? He's trying to win. So he's trying to go out there and get weapons from the Portuguese.
Mm-hmm.
His like number one rival is out there, and he's trying to do the same thing with the Dutch. And then this is where it kind of overlaps with what Sasha had the idea of, where like a skirmish takes place at this kind of trade deal when they're trying to come off, because it's like, obviously, you know, the Portuguese and the Dutch, they ain't friends. So so you've got these basically two tag teams who wind up having a massive skirmish, and the survivors of this skirmish find themselves in the position where it's like something's hunting them. So like in the midst of their battle, somebody gets taken out. You're like, wait, he didn't get shot and he didn't get stabbed. How did he die? Then another one explodes and he's like, what's going on? You realize, there's a predator. A predator's hunting them.
Mm-hmm.
And where it all boils down to is, so it's like one of my my protagonist, he's basically a Ronin, you know, masterless samurai. He is like, his samurai lord got wiped out, and we'll say like, oh, his lord got wiped out like at the very beginning of the skirmishes. So everybody's like, you're a Ronin, you didn't protect your master, you failed, you're not, you know, you're worthless. And what it is he's like, no, it wasn't another clan who took us out. It was something else. It was an Oni. It was a demon that came and wiped us out, and like nobody believes him. So he's kind of turned into a bit of a drunk. He's you know, become the unreliable. You know, we shy away from him.
Kind of like the Fall from 13 Assassins.
Yeah.
So he's like that, and what happens is, once the people who survive the first predator attack, when they kind of run into them and he's like able to give them information of what happened and he wasn't there, they're like, okay, maybe we got to listen to this guy. And it's like, so you have this you know, basically ragtag group of like Dutch, Portuguese, and Japanese, two warring Japanese generals, all in a crew together, trying to survive against the predator.
Mm-hmm.
And I always remember I had the final image in my head, because Alex said it, Sasha said it, I'm saying it. The predator wins.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, there is no survival for none of these people. Mm-hmm. You are going to die, but you're going to die honorably. You're going to die well. You know, maybe, you know, the best that they get is maybe like, we'll have it like, because for me, I'm like, the shoulder cannon would be there.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're going to have is that one of the skirmishes, like the predator uses the blade to stab someone, and then another person like tries to save that person, and he's like, yeah, and he throws his sword straight down and he breaks the shoulder cannon. So I'm like, fully kitted out predator, but he loses his shit, because I'm pointing out how good these warriors were.
Yeah.
And it was just, you know, it was like, these were the top notch of top notch, but they weren't good enough.
Mm-hmm. Unless he didn't have the blades in his arms and he picks up two broken samurai swords and he inserts them, and that's how he develops his spears. But there we go.
Well, we could be that, but I was just literally like, we got to go have that. And the end of it was, and the reason like I wanted like to have these kind of Portuguese and things, have the guns, because I had this wonderful idea of like, they basically make it back to like either the Portuguese or the Dutch ship, and they get the guns, they get the weapons, and they find a cannon, and they, like Arnie, they set traps. Mm-hmm. So they go to like the abandoned temple or the abandoned like compound of like a destroyed clan, which one that the predator's already been to, and they set up traps everywhere. Think 13 Assassins, when they turn that village into a death trap.
Yeah.
Like these guys turn the entire compound into a death trap for this predator, and the predator still manages to like take them out. This is like a horror movie.
Yeah.
One by one, taking them out, and it's like certain traps are working, certain traps aren't working. So it's like you don't know, as an audience member, you don't know, are they gonna do it? Are they gonna survive? Because of Hollywood and things, you're gonna think, oh yeah, maybe that, you know, that young, ruggedly handsome guy who's playing, you know, the Dutch soldier or the Portuguese soldier, maybe they'll survive because, you know, like, you need some names in there. But I'm like, no. He gonna die badly.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like the fact that Predator wins. I think from if you put a studio head on, what you might have is the Last Samurais or something are protecting like some babies or some really young children who they've stowed away somewhere, and it's dark and it's cold, and you know the Predator can't see them, and they sacrifice themselves to save those kids. So the Predator wins, but maybe just doesn't get to those like a couple of people or something like that. So you kind of create that balance to, so not everyone's just like coming out of cinema going, what the fuck? So, but yeah, I really like that idea. It was really, really good.
Someone to provide for the story to go out, right? So it's like you say, you have a kid, right? Now, I'm like, one of my all-time favorite franchises of movies is the Lone Wolf and Cub series. So I absolutely named like a child. There is a child in the story. Well, it was more like a teenager, but in the story, I named him, and I named him Daigoro because that's the name of Lone Wolf's cub is Daigoro. So I was like, yep, you're Daigoro.
All right. Alex, what did you think of their treatment?
Yeah, that's awesome, guys. Yeah, I'm loving it.
Yeah. Greg, what about yourself?
Yeah. Again, I think it's awesome. I think it's, you know, almost without sort of anything could be made better. I'd want the Ronin to maybe have actually been a genuine Ronin, had portrayed his master, and maybe one of the other protagonists was a very honorable samurai, and obviously they are on very different things. And the character arc of the Ronin is he then ends up helping protect said children, dying honorably, and basically one of the last bits is the samurai respecting and the redemption of the Ronin. So have him as the drunk, the useless and stuff like that, but rather be the Predator. It's he's getting back into the good graces of the samurai as he's up. But yeah, I think I'd watch that over any Predator movie. I think it's an opportunity to sort of resettle the sort of like this sort of power creep of we must have a bigger gun and this and that and what have you.
Yeah, exactly. Bigger in terms of weapons and size isn't always better. So I think you're absolutely right. It's I think that's the way to go, and I think we're all kind of in agreement there. I don't think any of us see it being set further down the line or further in the future, or even present day or anything like that. So yeah, any more thoughts on Predator before we wrap up today?
Yeah, there's only one. There's one thing we didn't really talk or touch on AVP movies, right? But here's the thing for me: the only reason to go forward in the future for Predator is to do an AVP movie based on the AVP comic book, the one that actually started it.
Yeah, agreed.
That they took elements of it. They took elements of it, and yeah, they really shit the bed. And I'm like I've been trying really hard over the last like 2 years, 3 years now to not call a film shit. Like, you have to be exceptionally bad for me to say you're shit. All I can say is I don't like it. Wonder Woman 84, you're shit.
Yeah.
The problem is
I just don't like it, right? Most other films I'm just like, I don't like it, but I understand if people do. But with AVP 1 especially, AVP 2, I can give a blight to that because I actually quite like that film. It was dark as hell and I needed a flashlight to watch it, but there were way worse films than that. That film was,
you know what? I kind of agree. I agree with you there, because you know what? AVP 1 for me, when I just dropped Mike and was just like, yeah, I'm out. The fact Predator got murked by like the alien as quick as it did, I was just like, no. I was like, no, you've just betrayed every Predator fan in that whole cinema now. And like, it doesn't matter what happens from this point onwards. No one's going to believe a predator, a natural born hunter, has been training its whole life to just hunt shit, gets taken out. So 2 of them got taken out so easily by one fucking alien. Not even like a horde of it. I was out. I was like, fuck this film. And then, yeah, it predominantly got worse.
Aren't they supposed to be teenagers though?
Look, I don't care, man, about whether they were teenagers.
They're about 15 years old or something.
Yeah, and so was Red Ranger and all those Power Rangers. They were teenagers with attitude, motherfucker. So, no.
Greg, what were you going to say?
It's not even considered canon anyway, is it? Because the whole idea is AVP. The first one basically said, the predators breeded the xenomorphs to hunt. That was the whole point of them. And then Ridley Scott came back in Alien, sort of Prometheus and Alien Covenant. Went, no, you are not shooting all over my thing. And so they're not really considered sort of canonical at all anyway. So I think they should just leave it be. I mean, if they then redid Alien versus Predator, then is it going to be part of the AVP thing, or is it going to be brand new take on it?
Brand new take, reboot. Yeah,
they leave it alone. I mean, I personally think that the Samurai synopsis can't be beat and what have you. If I was going to keep it in the modern universe, and everything I'm about to say sounds way more shit than the movie you guys have put together. So, but if they were, I'd want it to be taking, like, maybe, you know, acknowledging the Predator and like the guy, maybe not the stupid Iron Man suit, but have him, Dutch come back, you know, have Arnie back and this and that, and have it almost like the Predators decide that these are you know, the ultimate warriors of the earth because they have beaten the Predator, and it becomes a gaming season where it's we must now hunt these people who are Predator killers, and it becomes back to earth, and then just have, you know, sort of the best. I mean, you can get Alien Brody back down from this planet that he's stranded on, then you could have him as well. So kind of say, let's take the best of all of them, get Arnie back in as a proper character, and Olivia Munn and whoever else has survived, the autistic kid or whatever, you know.
Hell, get Danny Glover back. You just get them all, but get them all back.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'd leave Danny Glover because Danny Glover as well. I mean, he bested the Predator as well, so he could really just be this glue that binds it all together.
Predator, best of the best.
Yeah. It's only for the reasons that we enjoy sort of like Cobra Kai and this. That's just nostalgic. It's like, oh my god, it's Danny Glover and it's Dutch and it's this guy and it's Abraham.
Even if you bring him back just for him to say, I'm too old for this shit and just get killed. So
yeah, I did think that he'd be the first person to get killed.
Yeah, exactly.
Arnie still looks like he can take care of himself, but yeah. But I mean, but that sort of shit's funny as well. In the Predator, when they went get to the choppers, I literally almost spat out what I was drinking at the time. I thought that's quite funny. It's a little funny nod. So yeah, either go serious, amazing, epic, and would probably be absolutely hated because it's too samurai or dancers will war for Predators, which would be terrible shame because it would be, you know, amazing. Or just, you know, just have this sort of free for all the best from all the series and what have you all back, and it just becomes a sort of a Hunger Games on Earth of, you know, skill.
See, I think
champions.
I think a sequel to the third one, Predators, with that in mind, would work. If you continue it off with Adrian Brody and the girl on the planet.
In terms of timeline, actually, that the Predator comes before Predators, doesn't it? So if you were looking at actual, like,
I think so. I'm not too sure.
In terms of timeline, it's actually set before because the other one's set more in the future.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, with that concept, you could bring Schwarzenegger. You could bring, you know, maybe they bring what they consider the best of the best, and they're like, well, these guys bested, you know, this. You know what I mean? Bring them all there, and you could have loads of stuff. Like there was one thing in the third movie, which, you know, the girl clearly had a problem with Brody about, you know, about his background because he was like a Marine or whatever, and that it kind of goes unnoticed. And I thought maybe that's a good way for more of their history could be brought up in a sequel, and maybe, you know, maybe she betrays him, you know, for the Predator or whatnot, and you know, you could have like a death there that because the audience would have got attached to those characters that they give a shit that you know, when a betrayal happens, it's like a big deal because it's a sequel. And plus, if you brought in all the old guys as well, we already have attachments to these characters because of their significant movies and stuff. I actually think doing a Predators sequel to that third film would actually be a pretty cool idea, but you know, they're not doing that, so whatever. But the thing is, if I had the choice to make that movie and the samurai one, I'm sorry, I've had the samurai one in my head for way too long.
Oh no, I agree with you.
And I would do that. You know,
I bought this one as an idea, and then I listened to yours and went, yeah, I'm just not even going to say that one.
Yeah. No, but Greg, at the same time, that was one of my ideas for a long time. But you know, I just felt going back would be so much more. Going back in time would be a lot more interesting and a little bit more raw than bullets and explosions.
Oh, I agree.
Unless we do leave one samurai alive at the end, and then they end up in Greg, so time travel and shit. So we'll end up having a samurai with fighting.
That would work. As I said, just some weird sort of like battle royale.
Frozen in ice, like Captain America.
Or you just do both. Just do both.
Just
movies.
do both. Hey, money.
Just do both movies. Money.
The sad thing is if they made both films, my one would probably be critically better received in the sense, well, not critically, it would be critically worse off, but it would be box officely better received just because people are fickle. I think, you're too ahead of your time. Yours and Neil's idea could be sort of like almost like Apocalypto sort of Dances with Wolves, Last Samurai style sort of drama would be amazing. People would go, but where's the catchphrases and the shit? And
Where's the celebrities? Where's the big name?
Yes.
Well, Sal, you've joined us back. So sounds like your building didn't burn down. So what's your
just
final thoughts on Predator and going back, doing like either like a samurai or a western or the Comanche, or would you kind of do a little continuation moving forward where it's kind of more set in the future and stuff like that?
Well, I think I've already given my 2 cents about regarding what do I like to go. And that is what I said before, that I like the idea of either going back and resetting or going to their land and that sort of a thing. But while I was running downstairs to see if there was any fire, but apparently somebody's kids lit up our garbage on fire. That's why we had to run down. Thankfully, that's put out. I thought the reason why I love Shane Black was just cop movies. To have an Arnie buddying up with a predator beating up other predators. And I was because y'all been talking about Arnie like he can come back. Dude's like 70 now, right? So if you're gonna bring him back, right? Bring an old guy back. He bring him back with because he tried to kill a predator, but he couldn't. The predator couldn't kill him. They became friends. Now they're sit together, roam the world, beating the crap out of other predators, whoever come around. You know what I mean? And that'll be fun because you got all
like an Arnie Predator 48 hours kind of thing going.
Exactly. Think about it. Shane Black does great cop movies, right? But
Alien Nation?
Maybe the Predator's got like the shape-shifting. He can like take on a human appearance when he needs to. When they get into a fight, it busts out Predator style.
I say this has got legs. I say forget the Predator itself. Take the plot that still existed from the Predator and do Turner and Hooch. And just make that with the dog.
Well, I was thinking more like Mr. Nice Guys, because that's Shane Black's movie as well, like Lethal Weapons and all that. I mean, think about it, using that, because it's just all. I mean, what we want is
Danny Glover as the captain. Done.
Brilliant. And he can deliver that line. I'm too old for this shit. I've got aliens copped up.
We've got like another 5 movies for this franchise.
Yeah, there we go.
Right, we're gonna wrap it up there, guys. I really enjoyed that today. That was really, really good. Come up with some amazing ideas and stuff like that. I really appreciate it. If anybody wants to, take down your ideas or say how fantastic they were, where can they reach you on social media? Sasha?
SashMan3 on Twitter.
Neil?
You can find me on The Neil Coppin on Instagram, but don't try and steal my shit because I actually want to write this one.
Sal, where can we find you?
Sal_F1 at Twitter, Instagram, and so on.
Alex?
Instagram at Lex_Damon.
And Greg?
I forget every single time. I completely forgot one. I don't use Twitter much. I'm on there, but yeah, I'll
bottom of the screen. Here. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ken and Talks Film. You can listen to this podcast on YouTube and any podcast platform you can find. Apple, Google, Stitcher, Spotify. Like I said, we're a virus, we're everywhere. You can catch all the latest episodes as well. Please make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share it to people. Let us know what you think. What do you think of our ideas? Do you think it got some legs? Or are we talking out of our asses? And let us know some ideas for the future. What kind of movie topics would you like us to be talking about and giving our ideas and opinions on? And thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. And until next time, get to the chopper. Do it now.